and welcome to another episode of Coffee with the Commission. I'm Vaughn Poe, the Executive Director of the Alabama Real Estate Commission, and I'm joined today by Zach Burr, our Assistant Attorney General. Morning, Zach.
Thanks for having me again.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. Before we get started, I want to thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to join us. We understand that you all are very busy professionals. You're out doing the business of real estate, but it's very important that we share as much information with you all as possible. If you have a comment, please use the raise your hand button to unmute yourself and then make your comment. And once you're done, please mute yourself again so that we can hear other participants on the call. That raise your hand button is being monitored, so we'll acknowledge you and address your question. This session is being recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel later today. So if you don't have an opportunity to finish the entire session, jump on YouTube later this afternoon or some point in the future and give it a view. During today's call, we will discuss the renewal cycle, audit trends, and investigative trends. We want to be very respectful of everyone's time and intellectual energy. If you have something else that you want to talk about beyond what we're here to talk about today, please reach out to us at your leisure and we will certainly address your questions. Thank you. So Zach, we're in the renewal cycle. We made it. We had a soft opening earlier this month on June, I think 2nd or 3rd, and now we're into the actual full renewal cycle. This year we're going to renew about 40,000 licenses, and it's an exciting time to be here. So there's a lot that happens in the renewal cycle, and we want to make sure that licensees understand the particulars of it, mainly completing CE and then paying the actual renewal fee. That combination renews the license. The absence of either of those is an unrenewed license. So if you have not already done so, please verify your education, ensure that you have your CE complete already, pay the renewal fee, and if there's anything that we can do here to help you, please let us know. We want this to be a fluid process. We want it to be as easy as possible. And if any of you have suggestions on how we could potentially make it better, we'd really like to hear those as well. We have a lot of folks that like to renew early, and so we're trying to facilitate that. But unfortunately, the bulk of our licensees wait until the last week of the last month of the cycle to renew, and it creates complication. I want you all to remember that even though you may complete CE in the latter part of the renewal cycle, the school has to have time to actually post those CE credits. And so if you're going to renew on the last day of the cycle and you've not submitted CE prior to, you may have an issue with CE being submitted on time. And at that point, they'll be subject to a late fee. And we don't have any legal way to waive a late fee. It'll just be a late fee. So Zach, having said that, there are some other things that are always occurring throughout the actual practice of real estate here in Alabama, and that is auditing and investigations. And you and your team and Starla, as our general counsel, manage that audit process and that investigative process. Could you talk to us a little bit about the trends that you're seeing out there in audits?
Right. So it's hard to believe this, but it's been almost a whole year, or it's been over a year actually, that there were some changes made to our RECAD laws. Particularly the agency disclosure office policy now has to have language in there about how the company itself is compensated for the services it performs. So over the course of the last year, we've done audits and discovered that companies aren't familiar with the law changes and have not included that compensation language into their agency disclosure office policy. So for this has been going on now for a year. We've issued warnings because it's a new change, but now it's been over a year, and so it's moving forward. We're likely going to charge companies with the actual violation when they do not have the compensation language in their agency disclosure office policy. So that's one of the things we're seeing. Another thing that we've noticed is that some holding companies don't have agency disclosure office policies. And if you are a qualifying broker and you have a holding company, you might think, well, they're not doing anything. Why should I have a policy? Well, you need a policy signed by them acknowledging that they understand that they're in a holding company and that they're not going to be offering services. So that's one caution that I would give to qualifying brokers who are listening today.
So you're saying there's a difference between offering services and conducting real estate transactions?
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So another issue is we see companies not drawing out their property management fees that they're earning, and then they're drawing interest on the accounts, and then they leave the interest sitting in the account month after month, rather than drawing out their earnings each month. So what that ends up doing is the company money sits there and grows, and then you have company money that's mixed in with the consumer's money, and that is commingling, and it's a violation. So I want to caution companies about that. The other big thing that we see with audits is companies not having, they're missing recad and estimated closing statements, and sometimes they have them in there, but we check the dates when we do the audit, and if recad forms, they should be done prior to the salesperson entering into the brokerage agreement. So you can't have your client enter into a listing agreement and then 7 days later recad them. And the same thing with the estimated closing statement. They should be done prior to the consumer entering into the purchase agreement. But sometimes we see licensees going in and backdating those forms. And if they do that, it's not serving the purpose of that the forms were created for, and you'll be charged with the violation if you do that.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, having said that, I know that we have our formal audit process. Are there any informal processes that we use as well to help companies out?
That's right. So we try to remind everyone about this, but I think a lot of people don't realize this is out there, because if they did, I think we would get a lot more calls about it. We do what we call assistance visits. So if you're a company and you want to make sure that you're keeping your forms and your trust accounts in the manner that the commission requires, then we will send an auditor out there to take a look at it. And if they find issues, then they will work with you to correct them, rather than us charging you for violation. Of course, if they make suggestions um, for you to come into compliance and then you don't follow the suggestions, then you would be in trouble. But this is a tremendous service that we offer to our licensees, to just make sure, hey, I've been doing this for 6 months, a year.
Mhm.
Uh, am I doing what the real estate commission wants? And so we can come in and take a look and make sure that everything's within your company is up to speed.
And I think that's very important because we have, various types of companies that are operating out there. And so whether we're talking about a new company or a seasoned company that may not have been audited in a while, or maybe the seasoned company is changing leadership, that new qualifying broker almost owes it to themselves to say, hey, real estate commission, could you come and take a look at what I have so that I know what I have as the new qualifying broker of a company? And the assistance visits are non-punitive, correct?
That's correct.
They're non-punitive, so it's really just to help out for any company out there that wants to have a review to see where they are, to make sure they are where they think they are. And we would really, really would like more folks to take advantage of that. I really think that's a good thing. Are there any questions about that? Audit trends, audits, audit questions? No questions on audits? Okay, so in addition to audits, let's say there is an issue and now that company needs an investigation. How does that work? What are you seeing in investigations? What are your investigators seeing out there? Talk to us about that a little
Yep.
bit.
So our investigations come from different sides. Sometimes we ourselves see a violation, whether it be through an audit or just one of our investigators observing something, in the real world, they might see a violation. And then we also get complaints that come in from consumers and from licensees. One of the trends that we're seeing right now in violations, and particularly in the Baldwin County and Mobile County around the beach area, is salespeople doing property management on the side. So there'll be a salesperson that's working for a company that does sales transactions, and then on the side, not just for themselves, but for other people, a salesperson within the sales company has a property management business on the side on their
Mm,
own, that's not licensed and not being ran through a qualifying broker. And those people are coming before the commission. It seems to me that we're going to be maybe averaging one case per month
mm.
moving forward for maybe like the next 6 months, it looks like. And
So I have a question along those lines. Of those that we've seen so far, are the qualifying brokers ever out of the loop.
Right. That's what I was about to mention. It's important if you're a qualifying broker and you discover that one of your salespeople is doing this, to bring it to an end and bring it to an end quickly, or you yourself could be charged with negligent supervision.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And another issue that we're seeing, common occurrence, is salespeople in listings misstating square footage and acreage. So keep in mind, we have some employees here that are saying, please tell licensees that it is not their job to measure square footage, and doing so could definitely get you in trouble if you're inaccurate. If you're going to put the square footage of a home or the acreage of property in a listing, do your best to verify that what you're putting in the listing is accurate, because that's a very common violation that we see. Somebody thought that they were buying a 3,000 square foot home, and it turns out they only bought a 2,000 square foot home, and when they find out that, they're not going to be very happy.
No.
And so that's a violation that we see a lot.
What are good verification sources for square footage and acreage?
I'm hesitant to tell people because any of them could potentially be wrong. Of course, there's the county's tax records and documents. If those are used, then if you follow that and it's not correct, it's very unlikely that the Real Estate Commission would charge you for negligence unless somehow you knew for sure that that's an issue. We have a question from Karen. Karen, can you unmute, please?
Another minute or so.
Okay. Yeah, Vaughn, another issue that we see frequently is licensees making a listing without getting the consent of all the owners in the property. This comes up particularly in cases where there's a divorce and the licensee gets only the consent of one spouse and not both spouses.
Karen, are you there?
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries. No problem at all.
These are particular fields that are required, if I'm not mistaken, in our data entry. Those fields cannot be left blank. So can you put the plus and minus sign for more or less? I don't think it'll even allow you to put that character in there.
If you put a number in, don't rely on the fact that you put a plus or minus as, a be all end all. I think the customer, if you put the home is 3,000 square feet plus or minus, and it turns out that it's 2,000 square feet, that's a misrepresentation. So just make sure that when the number that you're using is coming from a source that should be deemed accurate.
So if you make a comment in the remarks, will that cover you?
Again, I don't want to tell people the customer's going to be looking at that number.
You better measure it yourself. Don't rely on my data entry.
That's helpful, but again, make sure that the number that you're putting in is coming from a source that is reliable.
All right.
Thank you, Karen.
Just asking, just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And so, I was talking about getting the consent from both parties in the divorce cases. It's another issue in estate cases. So let's say that somebody passes away and they have 5 or 6 children, and one of the children decides to list mom's home. You need to know that you're speaking to whoever the personal representative of the estate is, and that you have the proper consent prior to listing that home that's wrapped up in an estate sale. This next issue that I'm going to speak about, it seems like one that you shouldn't have to say, but that's why we have rules, because you have rules because people violate them. And so one of the things that we've seen lately is that licensees are giving their client the lockbox code. So a situation like that might come up is you're going to meet a client at a home, and then for something comes up, let's say you have car trouble and you can't make it. Don't then call the client and say, hey, I can't make it, but the lockbox code is XYZ. because what might happen is that client might use it at a time that's inappropriate and walk in on the sellers who are in their home not expecting someone to show up.
Or they may share it.
Yes. Or they may help themselves to belongings that are within the home. So don't share lockbox codes. That's definitely going to bring you before the commission if you do that. A hot one that we see is failure to report arrests. Remember that if you do get arrested, that you have to report it to the real estate commission within 10 days of being arrested. So sometimes we have people say, what's an arrest? If you get handcuffed and put in the back of the police car and taken to the police station, you've been arrested. If you get a speeding ticket, that is not an arrest. So we have also created a list of AI do's and don'ts because people are now using artificial intelligence tools more frequently, and we want our licensees to know that you are going to be responsible for your usage of AI. AI is a tool, and you're the licensee, and it's your license that's on the line if you're using AI. So we're going to put within the next week, we're going to put on our website a list of AI do's and don'ts. But I'll just share a few of them with you today, and so you know what to expect. One of them is don't input confidential client information into the AI tool. So the AI tools often collect the information. It doesn't just go away once you enter it into the AI tool. Those AI tools collect them for training data. And so there are certain models that are enterprise grade or opt-out AI platforms where the AI tool is not supposed to retain that information. Mm-hmm. But even if you're using those tools, then I would still caution you to not put client information, something that the client would want confidential. Do not enter that into the AI tool. At least treat the AI tool with the same caution that you would treat email. Also, don't release AI generated material without human review. So
that's huge.
A lot of times the AI makes mistakes. It's great. It's incredible, but it still makes mistakes, and it might have misstatements. So keep a human in the loop when you're releasing AI. Use it as a brainstorming partner and never as the final decision maker. The next one I think is kind of funny is don't use AI enhanced tools to misrepresent reality. We've all heard of catfishing in the dating platform, but now we're seeing catfishing in real estate. So we have licensees who have used AI tools to enhance property. So, the home doesn't have a very large oak tree in the front, but suddenly in their AI picture, it's a enormous oak tree that's beautiful right there in the front yard, or a swimming pool that doesn't exist behind the house.
Or power lines that disappear.
That's absolutely correct. And so keep in mind, sometimes we have consumers who are buying homes sight unseen from, out of state for whatever reason. They can't make it to see the home, and they're relying on the licensees to provide them accurate information. And if you're using AI to change the actual appearance and features of the home, then that's misrepresentation to the client. The last one is do not treat AI as a legal authority or regulatory authority. So if you have a question about license law, don't type into AI and ask, hey, if I do this, is the real estate commission going to charge me? Just call me, Starla, or Curry in our legal office and ask us the questions, and we're here. In your company, I highly suggest that you adopt a policy for AI usage because it's becoming more frequently used. If your licensees are using it, whether they're telling you they are or not. So if you're a qualifying broker, I would definitely adopt an AI policy to make sure that your licensees know when they should and shouldn't be using AI.
Wow, that is huge. And it sounds simplistic, but to not follow some of those could essentially put a licensee in jeopardy, right. And they may not even be aware of it because the AI tool is functioning on its own. And I think a lot of platforms are becoming more autonomous in how they operate. And so the danger, again, is to input data that's personal or sensitive and think that, well, I only used it once and it's gone. No, it's not. AI is learning the entire time. So that is awesome. We're going to post that to our website.
Yes, sir.
and make it available to the public as well?
Yes, sir.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions about that? AI do's and don'ts? Any questions at all? Excellent. Well, do you have any other comments, Zach? Or
I don't. It looks like we might have a question coming in. No?
okay, no question. All right. Well, not having any questions, I guess we did an awesome job.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. In closing, I will remind you that we're going to have a commission hearing tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. here in Montgomery. It's open to the public. You're welcome to attend. If you are a respondent, please be mindful of your attire. This is a very professional setting. We're conducting the state's business. We would ask all respondents to dress appropriately, and that should go without saying. However, we've had a few incidents where people were not properly dressed, and it was just not very good optics. So just be mindful of your attire if you're coming down. A reminder, this session will be posted to our YouTube channel, so if you need it for a reference or you want to review it with your teams later, please do so. It's on YouTube. We're on the cybersphere in many places, or several places. We can be reached by telephone at 334-242-5544, and our social handle is at AREC Alabama Gov. We're on Instagram, YouTube, X, and Facebook. And don't forget our website. We have a lot of information out there. There's a lot happening right now in real estate. And so we're trying to share as much information as possible. But if there's anything that you all need out there specifically, please let us know so that we can provide it and make sure that you have the tools you need to be successful. There is no commission hearing in July. Please join us on Wednesday, August 19th for the next Coffee with the Commission. I sincerely appreciate everyone's time. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful and productive week. Thank you.